You probably think you're in complete control of your decisions and thoughts, don't you? But how often are they actually guided by something else, something sneaky, something you don't even notice happening deep within your mind? These invisible forces are called cognitive biases, mind traps, and psychological phenomena, and they're hardwired into every human brain. You might go through your whole life, or at least well into adulthood, without realizing how these mental shortcuts shape the way you think, choose, and see the world every single day. In this podcast, we're diving into 21 of these strange and fascinating quirks of the mind. They're not flaws you can just switch off or delete, but if you're one of the few who can spot them when they pop up and know the situations where they're likely to mess with your decisions, you're already on your way to becoming a more thoughtful, rational thinker. This two-part series is inspired by the brilliant work of Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman in his book Thinking Fast and Slow, so buckle up for some eye-opening insights. Let's start with cognitive dissonance. Picture this. A fox sneaks up to a vine, eyeing some juicy, overripe grapes. He leaps for them, misses. Tries again, still too high. One more jump, and he lands with a thud, empty-handed. Frustrated, he turns up his nose and says, "I don't even care. Those grapes are probably sour anyway." That's straight out of Aesop's fables. It's where we get the phrase sour grapes. The fox had three options: keep trying, admit he wasn't clever or skilled enough to snag the grapes, or reinterpret the whole thing to feel better about failing. He picked the third one, creating a new belief that clashed with his original desire. That clash, that's cognitive dissonance. It's what happens when you hold two conflicting beliefs and feel that nagging discomfort. Say you interview for a job and don't get it. Instead of thinking the other candidate was better, you convince yourself the job wasn't worth it anyway. Or maybe you think rich people are greedy, but you also want to be rich. That tension can bubble up into stress, anxiety, or even depression if it gets too heavy. As Rolf Dobelli puts it, you can play the clever fox all you want, but you'll never get the grapes that way. The trick is to notice when it's happening and pick a side, because dodging the conflict just keeps you stuck. Next up is the spotlight effect. Ever walked into the office 5 minutes late, feeling like everyone's staring and judging? Or maybe it's your first day at the gym, and you're sure every eye is on you. Spill a dab of sauce on your shirt at a party, and suddenly you're convinced the whole room's whispering about it. That's the spotlight effect, when you overestimate how much people are paying attention to you. Truth is, most folks are too caught up in their own lives to notice your little slip-ups. So next time you feel like you're under a microscope, remind yourself, it's just the spotlight effect, and you can let that anxiety go. Now, let's talk about the anchoring effect. This one's a doozy, especially when you're making guesses or decisions. Imagine you're trying to figure out Russia's population. You start with what you know, more than one, less than 7 billion, smaller than China's, and adjust from there. That's using an anchor. But here's the problem. We lean on anchors even when they're useless. In an experiment, German judges with 15 years of experience were asked to sentence a shoplifter. First, they rolled dice rigged to show either a 3 or a 9. Judges who rolled a 9 gave her 8 months on average. Those who rolled a 3 gave her 5. The dice had zero to do with the case, but that random number anchored their thinking. Salespeople love this. A car salesman shows you a pricey model first, so the next one feels like a steal. A store puts a $150 dress up front, making the $50 one in the back seem like a bargain. To fight it, set your own anchors. Do your homework before a negotiation or big buy, and decide what's fair on your terms, not theirs. Then there's the halo effect. Ever meet someone and think they're great because of one shiny trait? If they're attractive, you might assume they're also smart or kind. In a job interview, a candidate from a top school gets a pass on their thin resume because of that prestigious glow. It's when one positive thing casts a halo over everything else, blinding you to the full picture. In dating, early charm can make you ignore red flags. Bernie Madoff's Wall Street halo hid a Ponzi scheme for years. To dodge this, judge people or things on multiple angles, not just that first dazzling impression. How about the gambler's fallacy? Flip a coin 3 times, it lands heads each time, and you bet big on tails next, right? Most people would, thinking it's due. But every flip's still 50-50. There's no cosmic balancing act. Casinos thrive on this illusion that streaks predict what's next. It's not just gambling, though. Studies show asylum judges are less likely to approve a case after approving 2 in a row, like they're evening things out. Same with loan officers and baseball umpires. Independent events don't care about what happened before, so don't let a streak trick you into betting against the odds. The contrast effect is another sneaky one. A $3,000 leather seat upgrade sounds steep until you're buying an $80,000 car and it feels like pocket change. People will walk 10 minutes to save $10 on groceries, but not to save $10 on a $1,000 suit, even though it's the same cash. Our sense of value gets warped by what's nearby. When shopping, try judging things on their own, not just against the options around them. It's tough, but it keeps your decisions grounded. Then there's confirmation bias, a real heavyweight. You believe something, so you hunt for proof you're right and brush off anything that says you're wrong. Google and social media make it worse, feeding you what you already like and trapping you in echo chambers. In politics, both sides dig in, seeing only their own facts, and conversations turn into shouting matches. Daniel Kahneman warns, a reliable way to make people believe in falsehoods is frequent repetition, because familiarity is not easily distinguished from truth. To break free, seek out the opposite view. Think gray, explore the messy middle where the real facts often hide. Ever notice something once and then see it everywhere? That's the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. Buy a new car, and suddenly that model's all over the road. Learn a word, and it's in every book you pick up. It's not that it's more common. Your brain's just tuned in now, spotting patterns it ignored before. It's a mix of awareness and confirmation bias, and it's totally normal. Your mind's a pattern-seeking machine, only noticing what's on its radar. The Zeigarnik effect is why unfinished tasks haunt you. You forget what's done, but that to-do list keeps you up at night. Good news, you don't have to finish everything to quiet it. Research says making a plan, like jotting down steps on a notepad, can stop the nagging. Next time you're tossing and turning, grab a pen and get out of your head. Finally, the paradox of choice. In a supermarket test, 24 jam flavors drew a crowd, but only 3% bought. With 6 flavors, fewer showed up, but 30% bought. Less choice, more sales. Too many options paralyze us, from jam to dating apps. More choices sound great, but they breed regret and fatigue. Narrow it down or set clear standards up front, and deciding gets easier. That's our first batch. Cognitive dissonance, spotlight effect, anchoring effect, halo effect, gambler's fallacy, contrast effect, confirmation bias, Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, Zeigarnik effect, and paradox of choice. These mind traps aren't going anywhere, but knowing they're there gives you power. Reflect on how they might be steering your life, and stay tuned for part 2, where we'll unpack even more of these brain quirks. Until then, keep questioning, keep thinking, because the more you see, the less they control you.